There are no stealth segments in Echoes of the Eye. This is not a true statement, but it's also only partially false. And if you let me, I'll spend the rest of this video explaining why. First though, let me set the stage. Outer Wilds is my favorite video game. That isn't Undertale. Note the phrasing, not second favorite besides Undertale. That one's disqualified, it's too much. It would be like giving best friend status to your romantic partner, like, obviously if you include them in that contest, they are going to win, but it also ruins the contest. Undertale's a cited author in my limbic system, it does not need validation from a tier list. Anyway, all that basically wraps around to say that I like Outer Wilds the usual amount.
That is so clever!
That's fucking dope!
Okay.
Whoa, Jesus Christ!
It was emotionally supercharged.
Whoa, what the shit? I'm not a sci-fi guy. This is a cool little sci-fi game.
This fucking game.
Ah! Oh!
What the fuck just happened?
I gotta get that blue beam! Blue beam!
Oh, here we go.
Oh no!
There's music lining up.
Fuck, this game is so cool!
What the fuck is that? I want to find out what that is.
You know what's even more cool? You gonna take me out of the space program?
So then I played the DLC and looked up a puzzle solution on the fucking wiki. I know. If you've spent any time in the vicinity of Outer Wilds players, you'll know that the fandom stance on spoiler suppression is less a matter of common courtesy than of cultish esotericism. Those fuckers get religious about spoilers, and by those fuckers I mean us fuckers, because I will ban you from my Discord if you post quantum knowledge without spoiler tags. The reason for this is pretty simple, but often misconstrued by outsiders. Outer Wilds is a game composed entirely of puzzles, and once the answer to those puzzles is known, they can never be re-experienced in any meaningful way. Spoilers for a normal game rob you of surprise, but for Outer Wilds, spoilers rob you of the game. And despite knowing all of that, I opened Firefox, typed in a search query, and spoiled the solution for myself. Through this act of barbarian sacrilege, I in effect chose to permanently delete content from the long-awaited DLC to my favorite game ever, besides Undertale. So why did I do that?
So I'm not really a fan of the navigating in complete darkness thing.
Why don't they have their lanterns on?
Pure darkness and stealth segment thing, it's just obviously not knowing where to go.
They're walking around with no lanterns, I can't know where they are.
No! Oh, jeez, I can't even see you.
Can't see anything, it's too fucking dark. Do the enemies not have lights? Can't see shit. They're fucking owls. Can they just see in the dark? I have no idea where I am. They see you before you can see them. Where do I go? Where the fuck do I go? I can't think straight. I can't fucking see. I could be walking into a wall right now. How do I learn the controls if I can't see them without drawing aggro? He's camping the entrance now. What the fuck do I do?
This is not Outer Wilds. This is not what I signed up for.
Yeah, I didn't like the stealth very much. Or more accurately, I fucking hated it. The Starlit Cove and Endless Canyon infiltration segments had a nightmare case intersection for me between stealth, a genre I generally hate to engage with, and horror, a genre that generally spooks me out of my gourd. I am easily scared by games, and I quickly discovered that when you're scared, it's kinda hard to think. Frank Herbert warned us, dog. He warned us about fear. Under total darkness and a haze of oppressive vinyl noise, the objectively simple layouts of the ALC houses became claustrophobic rat mazes, where mere seconds without a light source could bring total disorientation, and every step with a light source threatened to materialize an ALC from the surrounding blackness and end my run. I was terrible at avoiding them, and navigating the learning curve felt insurmountable when my higher brain functions were seized up with panic. Simply put, the alternative to me looking up a guide back then was losing motivation to finish the DLC altogether, until inevitably getting flashbanged by in-game spoilers in a YouTube thumbnail. I chose to cut my losses. And for years afterward, that was it. I internalized that part of Echoes of the Eye just wasn't very good. That maybe simultaneously introducing a new mechanical genre and difficulty spike as a progression bottleneck at the end of a puzzle game was a bit of a, let's say, optimistic call on the dev team's part. Overall, great but flawed DLC, 9 out of 10, and all was well. And then I saw this podcast.
So yeah, what's come up this time around?
The actual sequences with the inhabitants.
Oh, okay. So in terms of making them less scary or something like that?
hopefully the opposite, actually. Right now, those sequences are perceived as much harder than they were intended to be. Lon, is it safe to say that we're making some changes to encourage players to play in a manner that is closer to like our original intent, that just naturally makes it easier?
Yep.
Because nothing can stay scary for that long, right? If you're just failing over and over again, it's just, at some point, you're just frustrated, you're not scared.
What do you mean? No, I'm serious. What the fuck did he mean? Intended experience? Like, we didn't get that? We were all doing it wrong. Every player in the world. How? What did they think was going to happen? Are you saying that when I was stumbling around in the dark and running from the janky AIs that I couldn't see with all my movement taken away, I wasn't supposed to be doing that? That wasn't the intended solution to the game about thinking your way around problems and gathering knowledge to overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles? Oh, for fuck's sake! T-minus 0 seconds, enter the stranger. 2 kicks to the raft. Bypass the first artifact, keep starboard. 3 minutes and 15 seconds, dock at the canyon. Grab the artifact from the cinema, open the passage. 4:20, enter simulation. Check into the hotel and proceed directly to the dining hall. No danger with the lights on. Spawn the bridge, drop the elevator to the docks but don't go down with it. Back to the entrance, hidden passage at 2 o'clock, cut the power. Phase 1 prep is complete. 7 minutes 35 seconds. Pinch yourself awake before getting too spooked and drop the raft. Portage the dam and head to the Cinder Isles to dodge the flood. 10 minutes. Dock at Cinder Isles, miss the jump. 10 minutes 34 seconds. Recover from missed jump. Head to the tower, Oyasumi. 11 minutes 5 seconds. Enter Starlit Cove. Make a left, spawn the docks, take the raft. Optional step. Reminisce about Pirates of the Caribbean ride from Anaheim Disneyland. 12 minutes 50 seconds. Disembark at Endless Canyon. Take the elevator you dropped earlier. The dam breaks at 13 minutes. Listen smugly as those suckers in the river lowlands experience immortal severance. Take the stairs down to the right and prepare for your final challenge. Walking in a straight line with an elk in the same room. Just keep moving, they're very bad at their job. Cross the invisible bridge, and time. Endless Canyon archives accessed in 13 minutes and 40 seconds with 0 meaningful stealth. A question for you, viewer of this video who has beaten Outer Wilds. Did you know you could do this? I think I heard about it from a YouTube comment long after I'd finished the DLC. I thought it was a cool bit of trivia, but after hearing Alex Beecham's words on that NoClip podcast, as well as several other words adjacent to them that I cut out for brevity, I felt the biggest eureka moment flash through my brain since, well, probably since I last played Outer Wilds. Operation Owless was the intended solution to the puzzle. And yes, I said puzzle. The Endless Canyon, in its entirety, had been a knowledge gate the whole fucking time, designed to be overcome by observation and lateral thinking just like every other puzzle in the game. We'd all been so busy popping off about the fake vault codes that we'd let the DLC pass a far greater act of misdirection directly under our noses. The stealth was a decoy. Obviously. Like literally obviously, right? You're playing Outer Wilds, you stupid piece of shit. We do puzzles here. We think about problems and synthesize solutions. We do not beat our heads against awkward mechanical challenges until somehow brute forcing our way through like a FromSoft game. I had spent hours of my life feldsparring my way through one of the game's cleverest puzzles without ever once stopping to consider if there was maybe a better way. If it made any sense whatsoever that a meticulously designed puzzle box like Echoes of the Eye would actually expect me to play Outlast as its final hurdle. Of course those sections were a frustrating nightmare to play, so was landing on the sun station or hovering through the cactus hallway. The shittiness was the point, a glaringly obvious hint to try a change of tactics, to do literally anything else. That must have been what Alex meant in the podcast when he said they were patching the stealth to make it scarier. The hint wasn't strong enough. They needed to make the stealth segment so intolerable that no one in their right mind could fall into the trap of thinking they were intended. But sadly, I already had. The spooky music turned off my brain, and I forgot what game I was playing. For over a year after the DLC's release, my biggest gripe with Outer Wilds had been that I was literally too stupid to understand that the game was flawless. So I wonder what the stealth skip for Starlit Cove looks like. T-minus 0 seconds, enter the stranger. Kick 1, kick 2. Artifact dispensary on the right. Follow the water, acquire hardware. Back down river, dock at Cinder Isles at 118. Make the jump this time. 1 minute 46 seconds. Nap your way to the cove. Spawn the dock for later, then head to the right side of the village. Disregard signage, navigate by starlight, raft halfway to the prisoner's house, and dolly zoom to the master light switch. Flick. You might see an elk if you go any further, so double back and kill yourself. Go for a swim. 3 minutes 50 seconds. Wake up and smell the rapids. Dock at the canyon at 4:58 and proceed directly to the corpse basement. EP time. Spawn the bridge like normal if you're doing this before canyon, otherwise take the shortcut revealed by the LOD glitch. Ride the elevator down, circumnavigate back to Starlit Cove. 8 minutes, 40 seconds. Shit gets real. Climb the dock and go to town. This feels sketchy, but the enemies are actually incompetent and forgot to guard the left-hand side. Take the elevator down and wait. Yep, just literally stand here. There's an elk blocking the path ahead. What are you gonna do, sneak past them? Didn't think so. We're 11 minutes into the loop and the tower collapses at 20.5, so get comfy. 10 minutes later, and run. No time to waste. All the elk are dead, but the alarms can still get you. Down to the archives, drop the artifact, grab a slide reel, absorb knowledge. Quickly head back and... Oh. You only have time for one. I mean, it kinda works. With good planning and knowledge of enemy patrol areas, you can get to the archives and view a slide reel without stealth. You just have to wait in the dark for 10 minutes and repeat the whole process 3 times. Hey, Alex, buddy, are you sure about this one? Like, is this actually what you pictured the players doing? I thought we were on the same page about the whole stealth is a decoy thing. I mean, you must have made the tower collapse for some reason, right? But why is it so janky? Like, you specifically programmed the game to rewind time in the archives so the player doesn't get cut off while reading the slide reels, but that only applies before end time starts playing, which is exactly when the Cinder Isles tower collapses in the first place. It's almost like you calibrated the stealth skip to be as inconvenient as possible. Okay, change of plans. Maybe I got a little overexcited about the whole stealth is a lie concept, but what if there's a good reason why Endless Canyon Owless route feels intended while the Starlit Cove one doesn't? The LOD glitch, or Tron Vision, or dropping the lantern, whatever you want to call it. It's the technique revealed to you in Endless Canyon Archives, and out of the 3 simulation exploits in the DLC, it has by far the broadest applications. One of the biggest points of frustration with the stealth is figuring out where the enemies even are. With the lights on, the elk aren't spawned in, and with the lights off, it's very hard to see where they're patrolling without your lantern drawing aggro and disrupting the patrol. Heisenberg warned us, dog. He warned us about the LOD glitch. Completely solves this problem, allowing for a convenient, de-spookified reconnaissance pass before trying the stealth for real. When I caved and looked up a hint on my first playthrough, this was the mechanic I spoiled, and it was just barely enough to carry me through Starlit Cove on my own. Maybe the intended path through the DLC is to do the canyon first with Owless Strat and then use the glitch to power through Starlit Cove. That would work, it just feels so needlessly specific. You know what, I could hum and haw back and forth until the sun blows up IRL, but there's only one definitive way to pin down the developer's intended solution. Just check the patch. The locomotive towing this whole train of thought is that no-clip interview where Alex and Lone talked about the upcoming design changes they would make to improve the stealth. If the stealth is a lie hypothesis holds water, the patch will have made the stealth segments harder, maybe even borderline unfair, at least in the Endless Canyon where it can be elegantly skipped. So, without further ado, let's bite the bullet and compile some patch notes. They made it simpler. All of it. Pretty much every major choke point of the stealth sequences have had their layout streamlined, elk numbers reduced, and patrol routes whittled down to static guard posts. This, in short, means I was wrong. The developer's solution to the stealth being too hard was, quite straightforwardly, to make it easier, not to prod the player toward finding a clever workaround. They really, actually, just want you to do this. But still, the podcast, what sent me down this rabbit hole in the first place was Alex saying a patch was needed to direct players toward the stealth segment's intended solutions. And if that's not to skip them, then what is it? What's this big secret that makes the stealth easier and that so many players missed when the DLC launched? Well, after seeing what changes were actually made in the patch, I think that question, at least, I can finally answer. The key was in this quote from the interview all along, in which Lone teases that players who considered the game's themes should be able to deduce the intended solution. When I first heard this, it actually strengthened my belief that the stealth was made to be bypassed, because to my knowledge, the themes of Outer Wilds were observation and curiosity. The purple Nomai balls respond to eye contact for a reason. With that in mind, it made perfect sense that you were meant to crack the stealth by analyzing your surroundings and finding an outside-the-box solution. This, however, was only considering the themes of the base game. Throughout that same interview, Alex and Lone mentioned that a core philosophy to Echoes of the Eye is that the truth is hidden in the dark. The light-based mechanics throughout The Stranger are designed to emphasize this point, that to reach your objective requires fearlessly illuminating that which is obscure, even if it's something that you may be more comfortable leaving in the shadows. Or, less poetically, they want you to shine your lamp in the enemy's eyes. Yep, that's literally it. That's what this is all building up to. The most consistent change made by the patch is to take patrolling elk and reassign them to stubbornly camp in a choke point. Where previously you could slip behind their back with the right timing, it's now physically impossible to proceed without first luring them away from their post. The playstyle this forces you to engage with is one of alternately focusing and concealing your lantern, proactively aggroing out from a safe distance, then sneaking around them in the dark when they waddle over to investigate. And yeah, having tried it myself, it does seem a lot more effective than wandering around with your light open and hoping for the best. Does this answer satisfy me though? No. Shine the light in their eyes is a helpful tip, but it's not a solution. I was aware you could do this when I first played, it just wasn't obvious to me how it was useful. Even now, after spending weeks familiarizing myself with every aspect of these sequences, and aided by premature access to the LOD glitch, getting to the archives as intended is still far from easy. By the standards of, video games, this is pretty normal, but for Outer Wilds? To me, Outer Wilds has always been the game that stops being a game once you know how to play it, in the same way that Undertale is the RPG where no one has to get hurt, or RAM is the roguelike with no player character. Outer Wilds' knowledge-gated progression is a gimmick that transcends being a gimmick because of the game's single-minded devotion to working within that constraint and exploring it to its absolute fullest. To jump the rails at the very end with an honest-to-God skill-based sneaking segment, well, I don't think it retroactively ruins the game's purity or anything, it's just a genuinely weird call. It results in a climactic challenge that stands as a non-sequitur to everything leading up to it and leverages none of the game's established strengths. Well, except sound design maybe. Holy fuck, Andrew, what is that noise? The only explanation I can see is that the DLC being capital S scary was just really important to the dev team, that they felt the player consciously overcoming fear was thematically crucial to the experience, and they considered a genre pivot into stealth horror necessary to achieve that. But it's not like the only way to make a game scary is to put the player in danger. Some individuals, in fact, would argue strictly the opposite. By far the scariest game I've ever played is Red Candle Games' Devotion, which has very few points where it's even possible to fail at all. What's frustrating to me is that Outer Wilds not only has aspects of non-fail state-driven horror, but it pulls them off really well. Getting to the party house in Shrouded Woodlands, for example, requires putting yourself in a genuinely spooky situation, in close proximity to hostile Alk, no less. But the difference is that the sequence is mechanically simple enough that most players will still be able to do it in one try, provided they don't completely shit their pants. The horror and even the stealth is still there. The emphasis is just now on the mental barrier of realizing the Alk need to be stalked through their secret passage, instead of the open-ended technical challenge of navigating in pure darkness and manipulating their AI. Alex said himself that repeated trial and error takes the piss out of the stealth sections. I just wish they'd come to this conclusion earlier in development and committed to designing horror set pieces that avoid repetition by their nature, instead of needing careful post-launch balancing to mitigate the otherwise fundamental issue. As it stands though, and despite the stunning mental gymnastics I employed to conclude otherwise, this is not the reality we live in. Echoes of the Eye is a great but flawed DLC, 9 out of 10. I have a bit more to say on the topic over the video's conclusion, but real quick before that, a word from this video's sponsor, RAM. The roguelike with no player character, brought to you by Andrew and Toby, not those ones, they must have amnesia, they forgot the player character. RAM is the nuclear thrown ultra kill of Hades, a young robot's quest to find love in the post-apocalypse and stick it to the man. RAM dares to ask, what if Mario Odyssey was good? What if Silksong was real? What if Minecraft was a different game? Look, just like Everhood, RAM is not a sequel to Undertale. Robot Yowie. RAM is directly inspired by Outer Wilds to be a good video game, with over -1 unique heroes to unlock.
RAM was the real device theory all along.
The demo is playable and free on Steam and costs 0 money. You should play the demo, then wishlist the game. Thank God that's over. Fucking hate roguelikes. Those Xylem guys are the most annoying people to work with since Blackthorn Prod. Sorry, Outer Wilds. I hope you all enjoyed the video. It's hard for me to believe, but this is the first video I've posted in my channel's modern history that isn't Toby Fox-centric or a devlog. I expect it won't perform quite as well as the Deltarune stuff, but, you know, you gotta branch out eventually. And, yeah, I know, this video did kinda turn into another one of those find the narrator-esque charades where I talk in circles for half an hour before concluding that there is no conclusion. I get it, some people probably aren't going to like that. But here's the thing, a lot of people have asked me since I started tubing to do a video about my thoughts on Outer Wilds. The problem's always been that, by and large, my thoughts on Outer Wilds are the same thoughts held by everyone who's ever played the game. The story is a metaphor for accepting death. That's cool. You can beat it in 15 minutes if you know what to do. Wow. Those videos exist, and they're probably good and you can watch them. My voice is not needed in those conversations. Unlike Undertale and Deltarune, Outer Wilds is a remarkably concise experience. It says what it wants to say very clearly and leaves little room for confusion, which is, you know, good. It just doesn't leave as many footholds for the lore weirdos. This video was my answer to that problem. It's quite literally the one unique take I have on Outer Wilds, and it happened to be so unique that it's actually just completely fucking wrong. But it was sincere. I really did believe for years, confidently, that the Endless Canyon stealth segment was meant to be skipped. I have typed YouTube comments espousing this belief as though it was a little known fact about the game, and the realization that I was wrong happened in real time while doing research for this very project. The fact that this unassuming podcast managed to mislead me so effectively without even trying, to the extent that the right answer still genuinely makes less sense to me than the wrong one, is fascinating to me, and I think it leads very naturally to the root of the problem so many people have with the DLC. So even though the conclusion was somewhat moot, I hope you at least enjoyed smelling the pine trees along the way, so to speak. And now, what you've all been waiting for, the Patreon update. As you can see, the names scrolling up the screen right now are my Patreon supporters. I'm frankly surprised I still have so many after publishing so few videos this last year, but the reason for that is, of course, RAM. Developing a commercial indie game is, unsurprisingly, a full-time job, and the closer RAM gets to release, the harder it becomes to allocate weeks or months of time to video production. I wish I could say I found a solution to this, but no. If anything, it's just going to get worse. This might be the last mainline video you see from me until the game releases, so my honest recommendation to those who want to support me would be to just lay off the Patreon sub for now and, I don't know, buy RAM when it comes out, I guess. You might like it. For now though, that is all I have to say. Thank you for watching, and remember, you definitely can't fix her.